In this video, we look at some of the stats behind the world's 50 biggest selling albums. This video will look at standalone studio albums. Greatest hits, soundtracks and live albums are not included. Let's get stuck in. 5 countries provide one entry each. The Fugees' album The Score, released in 1996, is the oldest hip-hop album in the top 50. Sweden's entry will be a surprise to a lot of people because it's from 90s pop group Ace of Base and not ABBA. The Santana record Supernatural is the Santana band's 18th studio album. U2's The Joshua Tree is one of 4 entries released in 1987, the most from a single year. Back in Black from Australia's AC/DC was the band's 7th album and first to feature singer Brian Johnson, who was brought in after the death of previous singer Bon Scott. Canada provides 4 entries on the top 50, all from female solo artists and all released within 2 years of each other. Celine Dion accounts for 2 of the albums, with Shania Twain and Alanis Morissette's huge selling Jagged Little Pill making up the 4 Canadian entries. England provides both the oldest and newest albums on the list, 1967's Sgt. Pepper's by the Beatles and 25 by Adele, released in 2015. The United States' 26 albums are represented by 8 different genres, from folk, rock, pop, alternative, metal, grunge, jazz and hip-hop. Norah Jones' Come Away With Me, Nirvana's Nevermind and Shania Twain's Come On Over are the sole representatives on the list for their genre. The 9 albums represented across jazz, grunge, country, metal, folk and alternative all originate from US and Canadian artists. Rock and pop dominate the list, with rock albums holding 4 of the top 5 spots. Pop has the most entries in the top 50, however only 6 of the top 20 albums are from the pop genre. Shania Twain's Come On Over is the biggest selling solo album from a female artist. Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill and Green Day's Dookie are the 2 albums making it onto the top 50 from the alternative rock's mid-90s mainstream era. Eminem's back-to-back albums, the Marshall Mathers LP and The Eminem Show, have sold a combined 48 million copies, which is the same amount of sales as the back-to-back Backstreet Boys' Backstreet's Back and Millennium albums, although it's still slightly less than Back in Black from AC/DC, which has sold 50 million albums. Pop's 20 albums on the list are outsold by rock's 18 albums by a margin of 20 million sales. Adele's 2 albums represent the entire 53 million sales from albums from the 2010s. In the UK, there is 1 copy of Sgt. Pepper's by the Beatles sold for every 12 people. All 4 albums from the 2000s were all released between 2000 and 2002. Of the 337 million album sales from the 1970s, 257 million of them are from the rock genre. 80s pop albums on the list narrowly outsell 80s rock albums by just 4 million sales. Although the 90s leads the combined sales across the top 50, only 2 of the top 10 are from albums released in the 90s. Surprisingly, the 1960s, described by some as the golden age of music, has just 2 albums on the list, both from the Beatles. There are only 6 entries on the list released after the year 2000. 7 of the 10 entries from the 1970s are rock albums, and 3 of those albums are from Pink Floyd. The 1980s features 7 pop and 7 rock albums. All 7 pop albums are from solo artists, with 6 of the 7 rock albums coming from bands. Swedish pop band Ace of Base have the only 90s pop album where the artists wrote all of their own songs. Rock accounts for only 2 of the 24 solo artist albums, but 16 of the 26 band albums. Of the 723 million album sales from solo artists, 222 million sales are from just Michael Jackson and Celine Dion albums. 516 million of the 765 million albums by bands are rock albums. How many of the top 50 albums do you own? What's your favourite album on the list? What's the worst album on the list? Let me know in the comments. Click the link in the description for the full chart. Thanks for watching.